great readers. Miss Atwood and I are here to finish reading to you Born to Read. But before we do, let's go back to our learning intention and success criteria. Okay? I want to hear from you in your brain. What do you remember about what we're reading or what we're learning about in reading right now? Take a minute to think about it. Miss Atwood, when you look at our learning intention, what jumps out at you?
First, you should know who's in the book, the characters, the characteristics.
Yeah, so we will practice the characteristics of good readers. So good readers jumps out at me too. And good readers know the characters is what
That's
you're
right.
saying. Because that is understanding the difference between fiction, nonfiction, and poetry.
Yeah.
All right, so good readers is what jumps out to both me and Miss Atwood. And then we had this other word, genres, right? Genres, again, is talking about fiction, nonfiction, and poetry. If you also talked about listening carefully or learning new words or making connections or sharing your ideas and feelings, all of those are things that good readers do. Those are the characteristics of good readers. Yesterday, we focused on making connections. So when we looked at Sam yesterday, he was doing all kinds of things, right, with books because he was born to read. So some of you made connections to being read to when you were little. Some of you made connections to reading at the grocery store. Some of them made connections to reading the signs, like the stop signs and stuff. Some of you connected to the different places that you like to read. Like here, we talked about Sam read while he was playing basketball, and he read on the steps and reading in all kinds of places. So we had a lot of good connections yesterday. And some of you talked, like Miss Atwood did, about loving to ride your bike, just like Sam.
Yeah.
So that was good. And when we finished, we saw our friend Sam winning this bike race, right? That's where we left off yesterday. So if I'm going back to our genres here, we know you told me, Miss Atwood, that this is fiction. And you said it looked like a cartoon, and that's how you knew. So we have two different kinds of fiction. We have realistic and fantasy. What would you say so far this book? More realistic or more fantasy?
Well, right now, more realistic, I think, because you can get in a bike race. You can love to read and read all over different places if you love it that much. So,
yeah, realistic, right? Because it could really happen. And you guys made the connections because it was realistic and could really happen. So here's where our story gets a little tricky, though, Miss Atwood. We're going to switch from realistic to fantasy because part of the fun of reading is using your imagination. So I feel like in the second part of our story, Sam really starts to use his imagination. And part of the cool thing when you're reading is making a picture in your brain as you hear the words or as you see the words, right? It's called visualizing. And we talked a little bit about that at morning meeting. So another characteristic of good readers is that their brain is always working when they're reading. It doesn't just shut off and just, you know, read the words and just sit there. Your brain is going to make pictures like a movie in your mind based on what you hear in the story. So we're going to practice that a couple different times. I'm not going to show you the pictures. I'm just going to read the words to you. And I want you to kind of close your eyes and make a picture of what's happening. And then I'm going to show you the pictures. Does that sound good?
Gotcha.
Okay. So again, we've switched from realistic fiction to fantasy. So all fiction is fake, but fantasy fiction is super fake. Are you ready? Okay. So one dark December afternoon, the baby giant, Grundaloon, came slowly stomping through Sam's town. He turned the playground upside down, kicking buckets, squashing balls, grabbing teddy bears and dolls. And since he was a truck-sized lout, no grown-ups dared call to him, "Time out!" So hopefully you made a picture in your brain of what just happened. What did you see in your mind, Miss Atwood?
Sounds like he was a giant.
It was a big guy, right? I heard that he was a baby, so I kind of pictured him Yeah, like
overgrown
chubby,
baby.
like a big chubby baby stomping around. Did you hear him doing anything?
Stomping and kicking stuff like it was in his way because it was smaller.
Yeah, almost like he was almost like throwing a temper tantrum,
Yeah.
like babies do, like. "Rrr, rrr."
Yeah.
And I heard him grabbing things and taking like the teddy bears and the dolls, and he was so big that the grown-ups didn't tell him to stop because they were scared of him too. So hopefully you had a picture of that in your mind, because here's what it looks like in the book. So authors are the ones that have to write the words, but illustrators are the people who draw the pictures. So illustrators have to be really good visualizers because they just have the words from the author, and then they have to come up with the pictures by themselves to go with it. Nobody tells them what to draw. They read the words and say, oh, I think, and then they draw it. So if you're good at visualizing, you might be a good illustrator. Let's see what happens next. Ready? When Grundaloon had lurched away, the townsfolk cried, "He's gone! Hooray!" But what if he comes back? Sam wondered. Think of all the things he plundered. Sam gathered picture books and snacks and traced the naughty giant's tracks around the lake, across the bridge, and found him resting on a ridge. So what did you kind of see in your head in that part of the story?
Well, he left the community, sounds like.
The giant did.
The giant did.
Okay.
But then Sam was curious about where he was, so he went to look for it.
Ooh, so you kind of pictured Sam walking towards wherever the giant was. Did you hear what he saw that helped him do that?
I forgot.
That's okay. That's okay. It's okay to forget. It happens to the best of us. Because I'm looking at the pictures and I'm reading the words, I have a better idea. He saw the tracks.
The tracks.
So almost like a hunter would see like animal tracks.
In the snow.
Yes, because it was snowing outside. It's December. Sam was able to see the giant's footprints, and that's how he knew where the giant had gone. Now, what I thought was interesting is that he gathered picture books and snacks before he went to find the giant. So I kind of pictured Sam collecting all of his favorite stuff to like take to the giant.
Okay. Yeah, I could have seen it that way. Or maybe he didn't know how long he was going to be gone, so he wouldn't have snacks.
There you go. That's a good point, too. We don't know because we haven't read it yet. But I was thinking that he was, like, yeah, like you're saying, he wanted to be prepared to meet this giant. Whether they were for him or for the giant, we don't know. But I pictured him getting all of his favorite stuff to go with him to the giant. So maybe that's what's in your mind, too. Ooh, this is good. I'm not going to show you the picture. Are you ready? Fee, fi, fo, fum, the giant said. I'll grind your books to make my bread. No, no, said Sam. Have cake instead. Let's read about a silly cat, a caterpillar getting fat, an alphabet that climbs a tree, and a friendly aardvark on TV. Grundaloon smiled sleepily, and he sighed and sipped a cup of tea. And while the giant ate his snack up, Sam discreetly called for backup. So what did you picture for that part?
Well, Sam seems like he didn't gather what this baby giant was going to do, so he called for backup.
What does that mean, to call for backup?
He needed somebody to help him.
So he was distracting the giant, and he said, come help me.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is that something you ever had to do, Miss Atwood? Call for backup sometimes?
Definitely.
So what I was picturing is all the books that Sam brought with him, because I remembered them from the beginning of the story. So like when I heard a caterpillar getting fat, I thought of the very hungry caterpillar. A silly cat would be...
Pete the Cat.
Cat in the Hat.
Cat in the Hat.
Cat in the Hat, because that was one you pointed out yesterday. The alphabet that climbs a tree is Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. And a friendly aardvark from TV is Arthur. Have you ever seen Arthur before? That's right. He's kind of an old cartoon. All right. So the giant, though, is drinking tea and eating cake. So maybe you pictured that in your mind.
That didn't seem like what a giant would be drinking either tea.
I know. It's kind of silly. So here, again, the illustrator pictured this big baby giant with this little cup of tea. And then here's Sam sharing his books and his cake to distract him. So maybe that's what you saw in your mind. Oh, is a silly page. Okay, responding to Sam's SOS, a cargo jet from UPS transported Grundaloon Express back to his mommy, Giantess. So what did you picture happening there?
Well, I didn't expect UPS plane to come over.
So you pictured a UPS airplane coming, and picking up the baby, and carrying him back to his mom.
It really is fantasy.
It really is super fake. Fantasy is what Miss Atwood. She's never read this before. I told you I read this yesterday, and I did a bad job. So here I am reading it again to you. So here, Miss Atwood was right. When I picture UPS, I kind of pictured a truck. Like packing him in a big box and driving him back to his mom. Right? But here, again, the castle, the airplane, the giants, they really show that this book is fiction. Fantasy.
Really fiction.
Really fiction. Okay. Sam hustled home with sacks of toys for all the waiting girls and boys. Then everyone began to sing. Yes, readers can do anything. So I heard about sacks of toys, right? It's almost like a parade of them because he's bringing them back from when Grundaloon had stolen all of them. Do you remember back in the other part where he was like taking everybody's stuff? So Sam's the hero here, coming back, with all their sacks. One of our words from from reading or from Letterland. So he's bringing everything back to the girls and boys. All right, so I'm not going to have you visualize this part because this is where we just kind of wrap everything together. But it says, one point remains a mystery. Just what will Sam grow up to be? A baseball player? A city mayor? A firefighter? A mystery writer? A movie actor? A chiropractor? A statistician? Or a rock musician?
Oh, Lord.
Because he's a reader,
he can do
anything because his brain is so smart, he gets to choose. Now this is cool what he ends up being. So, Sam has not decided yet. Perhaps he'll be an astro vet with offices in outer space. Yes, readers can go any place. You got it. So what I said in my lesson yesterday was that really that's what's cool about our world is it's always changing. And so there are jobs that are going to be out there when you guys grow up that don't even exist right now. Like an astro vet. But if you read books, right, and you make your brain smart, you really can do anything. Like become an astro vet. You can invent things that haven't even been made yet because your brain is so smart. All right. So on Seesaw today, what your job is going to be is I've picked a page from this book with like a little section, okay? I'm going to read it to you over again in my voice, okay? And I want you to draw the picture that goes with the words and the story to show me that you can visualize something that matches the words. So pay extra close attention to all the different like things that I tell you because I want to hear or I want to see those same things in your picture. So would we draw a unicorn, Miss Atwood? Was there a unicorn in this story? No. So if I'm not reading words about a unicorn, should you draw a unicorn? No. And was Mr. Sticky Paws in this story? Nope. So should my brain be thinking about Mr. Sticky Paws? Nope. Okay. Think characters and the setting from this story and be listening for those when I read them to you so that you can draw a beautiful picture that matches this story. Because good readers visualize. That's it.